Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. MC-Mura here, and in today's video, while I'm forever waiting for Strive to land on PC, I had the idea about making a video regarding Street Fighter 6 and what would Street Fighter 6 look like if MC-Mura was the lead battle designer on that game. Now obviously designing a fighting game, this is something that takes years of work, years of especially iterative work, I would say, tweaking and having general ideas. Now obviously I'm here today to tell you my pitch, like what I would design Street Fighter 6 to be, what I think the central mechanics should be, etc, etc, etc. And before we get into that, let's first establish one thing. Fighting games are either mechanical driven or characters driven. Mechanical driven fighting games are, for example, games like Tekken 7 or King of Fighters, right? In Tekken, the movement is the key mechanic. You have to be good at movement. If you're not good at movement, you're not good at Tekken. It's not about being the best Mishima player ever, or the best Shanks player ever, or the best Nina or whatever. It's mostly about the best movement. If you're good at movement, you can be good at Tekken, right? King of Fighters is kind of the same way as well. You have the general movement system, rolls, hops, jumps, all of that. Obviously every King of Fighter has some sort of a cancel system, whether that is the max meter system or whatever, and again all of the characters abide by these rules and mechanics. So both of these games are games where the mechanics come first. They are trying to sell you on the mechanics, not really the characters or the uniqueness of each character. Now Street Fighter 5 on the other hand is a game that is very character driven. When you really think about it, there is no universal mechanics in Street Fighter 5. The only one is V-Shift. V-Shift is the only mechanic that functions in the same way across the entire cast. V-Skills are just a special move, and each character have two selectable specials to choose from. And V-Trigger, yes, all of the characters get V-Trigger by pretty much getting hit, but the V-Trigger itself and how it functions, the activation, and all of that is widely different from one character to another. And I'm not saying either of these designs are good or bad, but what I'm saying is that the Street Fighter 5 philosophy, making the game centered around the characters and not really the mechanics, this leads to situations like characters, for example, who have all the tools being forever good. That's why no matter how much they change or alter Rashid, Guile, Akuma, Karen, etc., they are forever top tiers because they simply have all the tools. And the game comes down to tools. Maybe characters like G, Abigail, Minat, if they don't have certain tools, maybe in some seasons they could be really good if they are overtuned, but the characters who have all the tools, they will forever be good. So in character driven games, matchups are gonna be key, and if you have all the tools, you're gonna win more matchups than you will lose, right? And anyways, Street Fighter 5 actually had mechanically driven games, and one of them was, for example, was Street Fighter 3, right? The parry system was the key mechanic. So early on, I would decide that Street Fighter 6 is gonna be a mechanically driven game. This is the choice that I'm going for, and what I believe to be the correct path to go with Street Fighter 6, in my opinion. So we have decided that it's gonna be a mechanically driven game. Now, what type of game do I want it to be? I want Street Fighter 6 to be a game where neutral is very important, where you are able to convert from neutral into damage, and that is the key. One of the issues with Street Fighter 5 in my opinion is that most characters, I don't want to say most, but a big portion of characters don't really have good whiff punishes. They can't really whiff punish into good damage or like be really good at it, and that's why again you see characters like Cammy or Karen being so top tier because they actually get to do that, right? So I would like everyone to be able to do that to some extent. And I would also like a game where you don't have to respect frame data 24/7. Street Fighter 5 is one of the games where, let's say for example, you are doing something like this with Laura, your opponent have to hold it and you have to respect it. No matter how brain dead or autopilot your opponent pressure is, to a certain extent you will have to respect it. Obviously you can break through it if you have a sway mechanic, or if you have a parry, or if you have like an EXTB, but all of these carry some significant risks. So let's actually talk about what sort of mechanics would I like to see, and these two characters here actually carry these mechanics. The first one is actually gonna be Dan's V-Skill 2. My way of making sure that every character have some sort of way to actually whiff punish or confirm from the neutral into big damage would actually be Dan's V-Skill 2. Notice what I just did, right? Dan have the ability to say in the neutral, counter hit or just whiff punish with a standing heavy kick, and then be able to cancel that into his V skill, and then he, for example, like can cancel into a special move or into another normal, or however he can do it. Obviously I have not trained on it, so excuse me if the execution is dropping, but you get the idea, right? Him being able to do that is actually really cool. Now I don't want this to be something that can be done all the time, so I would tie this to a resource. Something that I just did, I would actually make it so that this costs 1 bar of super. I would keep the EX gauge 3 stocks like in Street Fighter 5, but what I would do is that this would cost 1 bar of meter. I don't want the opponent to be blocking, like let's say Laura is blocking here, and then is like simply doing what he's currently doing now in the game, where he's like constantly throwing normals and all that. I don't like this spam. What I would make it is that you have to spend some meter to do this, so you want to do it on a hit confirm. Yes, maybe in the neutral you actually manage to get a hit, then you can actually get to hit confirm into some damage, and that can actually be really nice, right? I do think this is a fantastic idea, and most characters would be able to convert out of that into some damage, but also it's not gonna be super spammable and plus on block, and you get to keep your turn forever like Dan does. So I would keep it kinda like Dan's. It's like mine would be a in-between version of focus attack and Dan's, where you get to convert focus, you had to cancel into specials, and then focus cancels these specials, and depending on your character and the special moves, you were able to convert into something decent or not. And with Dan, he is super plus almost all the time, so that make it very spammy. I don't want either of these. I want it to be something that will mostly be used in combos or in like neutral conversions like I'm doing, right? Something of the source, not something that you can just do 24/7, right? So that is the first mechanic. The second mechanic I would like to see is something like Laura's V-Trigger 2. And I know this might surprise you because Laura's V-Trigger 2 is an infamously weak V-Trigger, but what it does is that it gives Laura a sway mechanic that then she can cancel out of into a throw, right? And I would make it either a throw or like a scaled combo, so that if you happen to land this, you are getting some sort of damage, but you're not getting really big damage. I'm not a big fan of parries in Street Fighter 5 that can be used super aggressively, super offensively. Let's say you are pressuring someone and you are Gil, you parry someone, then do a 70% combo V-Trigger reset bullshit. I'm not really a big fan of that either. I like the idea of a sway for Laura because this allows you to disrespect the opponent's pressure, but I also don't want that to be super rewarding. So here, if he is autopiloting his pressure, yes, you actually get some sort of punish, but again, keep it reasonable, right? I don't want to have a sway or a parry into 50% damage. I really hate that. So these are the two foundational mechanics that I will build the game on, right? Then what's left is a comeback mechanic, because usually fighting games these days, you gotta have a comeback mechanic. Now, one thing I didn't mention is that for the Laura mechanic or the sway mechanic, what I would do is that the actual sway, this would not cost any meter, but the follow-up would. And I know instantly some people will tell me, but hey Mura, this will make it so that fireballs are worthless, right? Like if I can just sway through any fireballs, how will zoning characters function, right? If you can simply do this at all time, zoning will be very weak. Well, I do have an answer to that, and what I would make it so that all of the zoning character can charge and dash cancel their fireballs, right? So they can charge it and dash cancel it. So I believe this will give them a dynamic playstyle. The guy who is swaying will not have the easiest time ever swaying, because he will have to predict the timing, and obviously you can, if you feel like your opponent is anticipated, you can just, you know, sway or cancel it and just not commit to the fireball, while also still having the zoning game, right? So at least that is how I would tackle this challenge. Obviously, it will not be a Street Fighter game if every character can just sway 24/7 and Fireball have no presence. I don't want Fireballs to be oppressively weak, so I will give them a charge ability to at least mess around with the timing a little bit, right? And finally, obviously, like I said, we need to have a comeback mechanic, and my comeback mechanic would either be a sway into its roll like that, where it doesn't consume resource, or the Dan V skill 2, where it doesn't consume resource. I will put your character in an install state where you can actually do either of these, and you'll have to choose which one you would like. If, for example, you are a more defensive player and you want to use a system that will actually prevent your opponent from coming back on you, maybe you would prefer this way. If you are a more aggressive player and you want to use a system where you can get to do this more freely, at least for a little bit amount of time, right? Like let's make it like 10 or 15 seconds, then maybe the Dan-like V-skill will be the way to go for you, right? And I believe with both of these mechanics in place, we would actually have a game where neutral is heavily rewarded, you have some way to play against the frame data, you can't really autopilot pressure 24/7, you don't have to risk a DP or something super unsafe, but also at the same time, if you make the read on your defense, you're not like suddenly turning the momentum entirely in your favor and now you won the match, right? At least that is my initial pitch. Let me know what you think of it, if you like these ideas or not. I would love to hear your comments in the comment section below. I will be leaving a link to the Patreon page and the Discord server page in the description below. Let me know if you like this video. Thank you very much for watching and stay safe.